Badlands, explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
I don't consider myself a conspiracy buff at all, but when they get a lot of coincidences, I get a little suspicious and call me crazy.
Polls, weird talk shows, crazy groups every Sunday telling you what you think.
The Republicans and the Democrats conspire with one another, which they do.
There is a conspiracy by big business against American democracy.
We know that there was a conspiracy.
There was a conspiracy.
There was no conspiracy.
Was there a conspiracy?
A communist conspiracy directed out of Moscow.
The right-wing conspiracy.
Communist conspiracy is a deliberate and predictable plan of action to subvert the world.
Right-wing conspiracy.
International criminal conspiracy.
Vast right-wing conspiracy.
Great conspiracy.
There are all these conspiracy theories.
Was there a conspiracy? I don't know.
Perhaps themselves even involved in the conspiracy.
There was a conspiracy.
No evidence
of a conspiracy.
Anybody would have to be a fool nowadays to dismiss conspiracies.
Conspiracy theory.
Cockeyed conspiracy theory.
Conspiracy theory exists because there really is conspiracy.
But they never told a soul about it. In fact, they engaged in a vast conspiracy.
Since you get accused of being a conspiracy theorist, of being a paranoid.
The historical context of actual
Conspiracy.
A conspiracy of bad people.
As always happens at some point in a conspiracy. One night, Cousin Eddie got drunk in a honky-tonk and spilled the beans.
There was a conspiracy, and government was involved in it.
Conspiracy existing within the United States government.
There was a conspiracy.
Conspiracy.
A conspiracy by the CIA.
The conspiracy of a few.
Dark, secretive, conspiratorial, evil.
Then it was certainly a deliberate conspiracy.
High-level conspiracy.
The do's and the don'ts and the rights and the wrongs of the various conspiracy theories that are good.
Possibility of a conspiracy.
In a moral sense, I think it was a conspiracy.
One conspiracy, that's all I'm talking about.
Full of speculation, conspiracy theories, and the like.
And what's going on here?
You began to wonder what was really happening in America. I mean, was there a vast conspiracy afoot?
You know, there could have been a conspiracy.
Do you think you're obsessed with conspiracy?
Conspiracy theory.
A conspiracy.
I'm afraid you'll catch me. I'm afraid you'll catch me.
A conspiracy would do the job nicely.
Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Baseless Conspiracies. Hope you're all having a great Monday this Christmas week. Zach, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, John. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. Is that guitar new in your background? Your background seems different.
There is no, oh, no, there's no guitar. That picture of Trump is new. It's a new AI image of Trump.
Oh, nice.
There's no guitar. There's a gun. That gun's been there for a while.
It's on the other side. That's a guitar.
No, there's no guitar. That's a lamp. The lamp was there. It was just further over. I also put a light around my Beamish Metalworks sign.
Oh, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, random. Anyway,
good.
How's it going?
It's going well. Going well. Just been taking care of Muffin and trying to get sleep when I can. I've actually changed. I think it's called a. Oh gosh, I forgot the name of it. But there is a certain name for a sleep pattern that you get in multiple pieces in a day. Like you go to sleep earlier and then you wake up and then you go to sleep for a little while again and then you wake up for the day. I've been doing that a lot because Lisa and I are sleeping in shifts so that somebody's always with Muffin.
That's like my sleep schedule with kids, especially like not during the weekday. That's different, but like on weekends or holidays, they'll wake me up at the ass crack of dawn. Especially now, I bought that Elf on the Shelf thing. Gotta make sure my son's still awake, so I want to make sure he doesn't hear this. But like,
I heard you mention this, but I haven't heard the full story.
Yeah, so like, okay. By the way, my son is still awake, and so the kid's he's a little sneaky and a spy. He's probably outside listening, but I told him if he stays in bed, then I'm gonna buy him the PF Flyers he wants. So we'll see if he does it. But anyway, I bought this Elf on the Shelf, and I've been like every time we leave the house. Like I'll get them in the car and I'll come back in and I'll like put them somewhere else. And so when we come home, they'll like freak out, like, oh, he's climbing the shades. He's like doing all these crazy things. And they are obsessed. So now every night when they go to bed, they wake up in the morning and he's doing something different. Right. And so they are so excited to wake up in the morning, like earlier than normal, pre 6 o'clock normally.
Oh, God.
And they like give me downstairs. I make them breakfast and then I usually end up falling back asleep for a little bit. Not for long, but so I get the feeling that you're going through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
how's Muffin doing though? Recovering well?
She is definitely recovering. She's a lot better than she was, the first couple of days. She's real independent, right? She normally does whatever she wants. Like she'll go and bimodal sleeping. Thank you so much, Brian. I knew somebody would know.
It's real, but yeah.
So one of her favorite things to do is to like go into the living room and jump on the couch and then lay in the pillows. Like I'm getting to that age where I'm excited if I wake up in the morning.
If I wake up in the morning.
Oh man. No, I mean, I'm at the age where like I'm excited to be able to sleep in when I am able to. Like that's what really gets me going. I always wake up in the morning, but I don't necessarily want to be awake. So Muffin will love to go out in the living room and jump up on the couch and like lay on the pillows. And she hasn't been able to do that because of the sutures and stuff. And today, like for the last week, she's been going out to the living room and like looking at the couch and then looking at us and like kind of going like this. Like she's like, I want to do it, but she knows that she shouldn't, or maybe she understands that she can't. But today I was getting ready for work and I came out into the living room and she was already up on the couch and just kind of looking at me with this like terrified look in her eyes. And I was like, oh my God. And I was all ready to like go see that she had torn her back open or something like that, but it wasn't. So when Lisa got home from work, I went to Petco and I got another set of stairs. Like we have stairs at the base of the bed so that the dogs and the cat can walk up the bed and walk up the stairs onto the bed. And so I had to get another pair for the living room because she was like dead set on being back on that couch. So yeah, well, she's doing a lot better, but it's going to be a couple of weeks until she gets the sutures out, and we'll probably get results on the mass after the 1st.
Well, that's good. I'm excited to hear what the results are because I'm hoping they're good news.
Me too.
But anyway, we do have a guest for tonight's show, and I don't want to keep him waiting too long. Actually, I wouldn't. I mean, we can keep him waiting for like another hour if we really wanted to. I wouldn't care less, but it's probably rude to keep him waiting. So how about we do our sponsors real quick?
Okay.
And then after that, we'll bring him on and we'll talk about the Boston Marathon bombing tonight. So first up, we got some My Pillow. For those of you who haven't bought Christmas gifts yet, I don't know if that type of person exists, but this is a great idea for you.
Because of your overwhelming support, our $14.88 My Pillow has been one of the biggest sales in My Pillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard My Pillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use My Pillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard My Pillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic My Pillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Holy cow, Counterinsurgent with what I believe is the first gifted subscriptions to Badlands Media, gifted 5 subscriptions. That is extremely generous of you. Thank you for doing that. It's a new feature on Rumble here. You can give the gift of a subscription to Badlands for Christmas. So thank you so much for doing that. And we do have one more sponsor here, and that is River. River Bitcoin. River announces Bitcoin interest on cash. Now, US dollars in your River account will earn a high yield interest rate that can be paid in Bitcoin. With the price of groceries, mortgage, and tuition on a steep rise, people are now looking at a retirement age of 80 instead of 60. That's all because dollars are losing value at a record pace. The challenge is finding a way to hold onto your dollar while still getting ahead, and that's where River Bitcoin comes in. River Bitcoin's interest on cash protects your dollars with FDIC insurance while offering you the option to reap the potential gains of Bitcoin. Over the past 2 years, you would have earned 2x the rate of most high-yield savings accounts and 16x the rate of the national average savings account with this Bitcoin interest on cash. Get started today at badlandsmedia.tv/river. Move your cash to River and start earning a real interest rate with Bitcoin. That's badlandsmedia.tv/river. River. All righty. We'll bring him on. Notorious Boston area mega extremist. Burning Bright. How's it going, man?
Pretty good. The narrative just ended. The episode with Ghost and I. Yeah, if anybody watched that, thanks for joining. 3 hours, 40 minutes. We got to our topic around 2 hours and 15 minutes in. And we sort of did like a preview of the topic we were going to discuss.
So you're going to have to do another episode. That's great.
Yeah, at some point. So.
Was he drinking eggnog by chance?
He was not. He seemed... I heard, though. I saw Tell in the chat of famed tales of Ghost and eggnog.
Yeah, well,
he was out of control, dude.
He was hilarious. Yes, out of control. He allegedly went to a Christmas party, and that's the part I'm not sure if I believe or not, but that's what he claims. Then he did Story Hour with you guys where he's drinking eggnog, and he came on and he was still drinking eggnog. True. And he got through a
he had to finish that handle.
So is eggnog alcoholic, or is it
well, when he was drinking,
what's going on with eggnog?
I mean, traditionally, like if you're going to a holiday party and they have eggnog, it's supposed to be alcoholic. And of course,
that mean it's added to it, or like eggnog is alcoholic by itself?
So you buy cartons of eggnog and it's non-alcoholic. Okay, you can add your own alcohol to it, but they do make handles of alcohol and eggnog already mixed. I would say if you had to choose, probably mix your own up, because then you can control the quality of the alcohol that goes into it. If you're buying a handle of pre-mixed alcohol, it's probably like the lowest tier white liquor you can possibly get, which is nasty. So I can't imagine he felt too good the next day.
You're getting like Alabama vodka rather than Russian that stuff. Yeah, I had eggnog like once as a small child and don't remember what it tasted like, but know that I hated it and want nothing to do with it ever again.
I am a huge fan of eggnog. Lisa hates it. So like as an adult, now I don't get it. But like when my daughter was little, we used to indulge on it every year.
Like if I'm going to drink, like why? I don't know. You're not drinking eggnog for the alcohol percentage, and you're not drinking it for the taste necessarily unless you add something to it.
Isn't it made of milk?
It's eggs. It's eggs. It's milk. It's nutmeg. Other spices. I think it's delicious.
It's basically mayonnaise and alcohol.
You should not be mixing alcohol with that kind of stuff.
So good. I love it. It's like
I will say it's fitting that even not having seen that episode, I introduced Ghost as like myself being hopelessly Irish. So I'm glad that he's living up to that.
That's
There's only so much we can do.
Anyway,
Speaking of, I'm not drinking eggnog, but I am drinking. It is what it is.
God.
We did have a question from the chat about what was the subscription gift for. If anybody was around like on the Twitch days when we were on Twitch, you could gift people subs to your channel. Rumble has rolled that out now. And so if you're in your chat and at the bottom, let me get rid of this. There's this little gift button. You click on that and you can gift subs and they'll randomly give it out. So this is cool.
Yeah.
I'm glad they're finally doing this.
Yeah. On on Pilled, if somebody gives them, if you're quick, then you can grab them. But I guess, as John said, they're just randomly applied. So you have to be in the chat and likely participating. Otherwise, you're not going to get a chance to get one of those subs. So you might as well say hello every now and then.
Yeah.
Did you get kicked off Twitch, Zach?
I sure as hell did. Yeah.
I didn't actually, but I
Oh, you left, right?
Once all my friends got kicked off, I left in solidarity because I wanted them to feel the financial pain
well,
from
as
that.
A Fed you mean to keep your cover? You wanted to make sure that people like Zach trusted you.
Yeah, I felt bad because there's one guy who got like a annual subscription, and then 2 days later, I was like, "Yeah, I'm not streaming here anymore." And I got paid for that for literally a year. It was a whole year. And I just kept thinking of that one person, whoever you are, if you're still watching. I still apologize.
That was the last straw, John. He quit following you after that.
I mean, probably I would get it. I don't blame you.
Hey, that's the thing about doing the free stuff is that we appreciate the subscriptions, but we're not paywalling anything, so it's all just free market doing what it does.
Look at Lisa. That's the wrong one. There we go.
French. I don't care what people. What do people say? What are people saying? What are the rumors?
About it, man.
Oh God.
But thank you.
I like the I like Blow Gabriel Blow says you should put that one up there. I believe in this.
Where is it?
I used to not think
you
being
can do that
Irish
too,
was
Burning
like
Bright.
That
one?
one?
I forgot I have the abilities. I could do anything on this stream, actually.
He said earlier, he was like, look at that. I have the power to just come into your stream. And I was like, don't all of us?
Yeah, pretty much
I didn't
everybody with
until
access to my
very
account.
recently. Yeah.
Now that he has his own show.
Right.
But anyway, so tonight we are going to be talking about the Boston bomber. And how this came about is we were originally going to have somebody else on. They had to go to a Christmas party, so we're rescheduling that one. And Zach
Steven doesn't have any friends outside of
yeah, no. Yeah. Zach said he had family in town, didn't want to put together like a normal conspiracy. So I was looking for other options. I posted about it on Twitter. But Burning Brett's like, yeah, in light of the Boston bomber getting his sentence commuted, maybe I'll come on and talk about that. And we were all like excited about it. And it turns out that wasn't even true. He was one of the only ones to not get his sentence.
But it might have been, I might have been accidentally even more signal based, as Zach said.
It sounds like something you would think about.
Zach, explain why I could have been even more right than I thought.
So you look at all of the people that Biden commuted their sentences. You've got child murderers, the kind of guy who would force a 12-year-old girl to watch him strangle her mother in front of her and then shoot her 4 times in the belly and then cut her throat just because he wanted to experience as much murder as he could of a child.
Who did this? What?
This
That's
is
somebody that got commuted?
That's
one
one
of
of
the
the
was commuted, right?
One of the 37. Yeah, I mean, pretty much all of the people that Joe Biden commuted are like the most. Well, first of all, every single one of these people was on federal death row. All right. So in order to get on federal death row, you've got to be the worst of the worst. All right. And the people that he commuted previously were also some of the absolute worst people, like that judge who was in the revolving door scam about putting kids in prison because they did absolutely nothing at all. I mean, you had a number of those kids kill themselves. Like that guy never should have gotten out of prison. And so anyways, he commuted all of these child killers and rapists and stuff like that, mass murderers. One of the guys is connected to 11 murders. Okay, he's a straight up serial killer. This is honestly very on brand. Go back to George W. Bush. He commuted a serial killer, and his name is escaping me right now. But he was connected to like a child trafficking and child murder ring that also had connections to like elite players and stuff like that.
Henry Lee Lucas.
Thank you very much, Bernie. And so anyways, the 3 people that he didn't commute were Sarnev, okay, from the Boston bombing, Dylan Roof, that church shooter, and then the mosque shooter, who had, okay, so
so like the 3 that were involved in quote unquote terrorist attacks.
The MK Ultra ones.
Yes, MK Ultra terrorist attacks. Yes. These are the people who cannot get off death row because they have to kill them before they tell anybody what actually happened or perhaps what they had been involved with previously.
Yeah, so the reason, honestly, earlier today, I wasn't even thinking much about the commuting versus non-commuting. What Zach says makes me think even more so that maybe there is something to it. But literally just seeing the Sarnaev name, I hadn't seen it in literally years. Yeah. And I told the guys, I was talking about it in the Badlands chat earlier today. This digging was what re-blackpilled me circa 2013. I've said a million times on the shows, I was a liberal. I was an Obama voter in 2008. I did not vote for him in 2012 because I had figured out enough at that point to know that was bad. But I kind of blackpilled. But I was still going on the chans and all that stuff and trying to figure shit out. I'd originally kind of been looking into the 9/11 conspiracy theories. That's what kind of woke me up back when I thought I was woken up. And then the Boston bombing happened, and obviously I live in the area. My college roommate was from Watertown, and he was
Where's Watertown? Because there's a Watertown in South Dakota, and I'm just wondering which one.
No, so Watertown's a suburb of Boston, and like northwest Boston.
Okay.
And Watertown became infamous during this time period because there was a big manhunt for the Tsarnaev brothers.
That's right.
And it took place in Watertown. And my roommate was one of the houses that the FBI searched for the Tsarnaev brothers.
Wait. Like, before you continue, how would people from
out, I guess.
How would people from Watertown say Watertown?
Watertown. it's the most Boston Watertown. Yeah, that's how they say it.
Okay. So like, do an impression of your friend calling you. My God, you'll never fucking guess. There's a fucking manhunt going on right
These
now.
These fucking cops, man. The Tsarnaevs. You know who's from Watertown? You know who's from Watertown? And my roommate's ex-roommate, his childhood best friend, called her a bitch at a Watertown bar, and there ended up being a big bar fight. Was the actress who plays Faith in the Buffy the Vampire show? What's her name again?
I don't know.
The red hair?
Somebody asked Patrick. Somebody asked
Faith
Patrick.
Buffy.
I'm not a Buffy fan.
What is her name?
I can proudly say I've never watched
Eliza
one episode.
Dushku. Eliza Dushku.
Oh, I actually
Her last
do know
name's
who
Dushku?
I know who she is.
Dushku, yep.
Her last name is Dushku.
Yep. So my roommate, Mike.
That motherfucker back there is not real.
No.
My claim to fame is that my college roommate's best friend once insulted Eliza Dushku at a Watertown bar. And
Your college roommate's there's an
my
ex in there.
college roommate's ex-roommate. Yep.
So somebody
They
you
had a
ever met
falling
this
out, which is
person?
why we became roommates.
You're 2 degrees removed from insulting Eliza.
Insulting Eliza Dushku.
Wow.
But I also would have if I was there. I'd like to think.
Anyway,
was she being a total cunt?
I guess she was being a bitch, bro.
What's the apples quote from? It's
How you like them apples?
There you go. Yeah.
Say it though, Bernie.
I'm not saying it.
No. I can't. That's
too far.
Oh, come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. It's cultural appropriation. I mean, I suppose we should lay out what this even is. If you guys remember, I mean, I'm sure there's like one person who doesn't know. As Zach said, one of the 3 guys whose sentence was not commuted was Boston Marathon bomber Dzhokhar Tsarnaev, who is now 31 years old. So April 15th, 2013, according to the official narrative, the Tsarnaev brothers, Tamerlan and Dzhokhar, planted 2 homemade pressure cooker bombs that detonated near the finish line of the race 14 seconds apart. 3 people were killed, hundreds injured, including 17 who lost limbs. This was in terms of the impact, like the kinetic actual impact, hate to be callous, but of course something like 9/11 is orders of magnitude bigger than the Boston bombing. But when something like this happens, of course it became national news. At the time, I think I lived in Canada at the time, 2013. Mrs. Bright, I don't know if she's watching, but she should correct me. I did live in Canada in 2013 for like most of that year. So I think I was there. But the Boston bombing was definitely worldwide news. Even though I was from there, obviously I knew a lot of people around it, but it was a huge thing, right? They made it into this huge thing. And at the time, I was still on the Chans and looking into the initial reporting out of the Boston bombing pretty much blackpilled me to the point where that was when I totally defected from the info war and decided I'm just going to go to like kickboxing class and live my life. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to look
became a Canadian.
Yep. Almost became Canadian. That's how bad things got, John. That's how dark things got. And the reasons I said to the guys before the show, in terms of presenting this conspiracy theory, I don't have a strong theory on all of what I think happened here, But I think that the story we're told about the Boston bombing is absolutely ridiculous. And, I've got a couple little anecdotes, and I know those are stupid, but these boys were both in the Boston martial arts scene, the fight scene, which is a very small scene that I was in. And I never trained with them. Go ahead.
I have a video about the two brothers that might be
go ahead.
helpful to play.
Yeah, let's do it.
What we know about the suspected bombers.
Who is this? The Wall Street Journal?
Paragon of
the
journalism.
suspects in the Boston Marathon attack are a pair of brothers whose family fled the violence in Chechnya and relocated to the U.S. with the help of a local Chechen community leader. Zokhar Tsarnaev, the suspect in custody Friday night, arrived in the U.S. in 2002. Tamerlan Tsarnaev, who was killed in a shootout Thursday night, arrived on his own in 2004. They have 2 sisters. Their parents are separated. Their father, Anzor, after coming to America, worked as a mechanic, but never learned English. He now lives in Russia. He says he believes his sons were framed. Here's what we know about the 2 young men individually. Tamerlan, age 26, was a successful Golden Gloves boxer. At one time, he had told an interviewer he'd hoped to box in the Olympics, but his boxing career went no further. An FBI official tells the Journal that the FBI interviewed Tamerlan in Boston in 2011 at the request of a foreign government that suspected he had ties to a terrorist organization. They found no derogatory information, and the case was closed. According to law enforcement officials, Tamerlan spent last January to July in Dagestan, Russia, where he visited his father. It's a region that's home to a simmering insurgency. He returned to Boston to his wife, who converted to Islam, and child. A neighbor says he was supported by his wife and had grown a bushy beard. Zokhar Tsarnaev, 19, according to a classmate, always was wearing a baseball cap worn backwards like the one in the images released by the FBI. He attended Cambridge Ringe and Latin School, where his friends say he was on the wrestling team.
We worked together as lifeguards. Very smart, just an all-around really good person.
He was enrolled as a nursing student at the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. He became an American citizen last year. He had this profile on a Russian social networking site, the authenticity of which couldn't be independently verified. This video posted on his profile appears to be a propaganda clip rallying jihadists to go to Syria to fight alongside rebels there. Now authorities are trying to understand their alleged motives, how 2 young men with promising futures became the first alleged terrorists to successfully mount an attack on American soil since 9/11.
See what they did there? They're like, here's this Russian Facebook profile that we can't verify is his, but check out the extremism on this page, guys. This page that we can't verify is his.
Yeah, and full disclosure, I didn't know these guys, but I'm gonna do the clichéest Boston thing ever. I knew a lot of people who did.
Okay. Well, no, that's good enough, though. I mean, what did other people say to you about them?
So the Tsarnaev brothers, as I said, were in the Boston fight scene. That is a very small scene that I was a part of. They trained, the older brother Tamerlan trained at Y Crew Boston, which was owned by John Doomsday Howard. If anybody's a UFC fan, he's famous for having 2 slam KOs. He literally knocked guys out by slamming them.
Is Doomsday his middle name or his
nickname?
Nickname. Okay.
Middle name.
Just checking.
So Doomsday Howard had this gym, Y Crew, in Boston. Tamerlan was a student at Y Crew. He was kind of just getting into the fight scene in Boston. But from everybody that I spoke to who trained with him, he was very, very, very talented. And admittedly, very aggressive. There's sort of what's the word I'm looking for? Etiquette of sparring in the gym scene. Like if you're a professional fighter and you go into another pro fight gym that you've never been in, you are expected to pull your punches and your strikes when you're sparring, because you're supposed to basically figure out how hard does this gym go. And then you're supposed to tailor your sparring to them. Tsarnaev was actually notorious for not doing that. He was very aggressive. He'd go into gyms. He'd knock people out. The younger brother, Zokhar, who is the one that Biden did not commute, was not an MMA fighter, but from what I am told by people who trained with him, was a extremely talented amateur wrestler. So he was a Division I wrestler in high school. He had designs on the Olympics. The reason I say that is, I know, it seems like these weird anecdotes, but these kids were really talented. Most of the guys that I knew that trained with Tamerlan said that they thought easily he was a UFC caliber fighter in training.
Really?
And the people that talked about Dzhokhar said that he was easily a very high level wrestler, that he was also extremely smart. One of the other things that I heard about Tamerlan is the older brother. I don't know if he was smart or not, but I know that the common rhetoric in the area was that Dzhokhar was very intelligent and Tamerlan was kind of more of a meathead. Like, he was a brawler type of guy, wanted to be a fighter. The younger brother, though, according to his friends in high school, they were absolutely shocked when this happened. And I feel like the only reason I think that's relevant is because so many of these patsy stories, or what the hell happened here, was this a real terrorist attack or not, when you start getting details on the suspect, I feel like they all kind of run in a pattern, right? Like it's like, oh, he was a loner, he didn't really talk to anybody, he had all these issues. That wasn't really the case here, and which is why in 2013 my spidey senses were going off immediately that the younger brother was not fitting like the normal patsy mold. And in my opinion, that's why the media was so firm on saying that it wasn't his idea. He was just brought into it through the influence of his older brother. Because in my opinion, they knew that the history and the connections that Dzhokhar had made in the Boston area were totally inconsistent with that video you just played, John, of like Syrian Islamic extremism. Yeah. There are so many anecdotes of Dzhokhar that don't fit that. So they basically put all of that on Tamerlan, his older brother, and said that he was the mastermind of this whole thing. There's a lot more, but that's the start of why I was a little bit suspect of
I've heard stories, and I don't know if this is like, it might have even been you, Zach, who said this before, because I couldn't remember if we've actually talked about this conspiracy theory or not.
No, we haven't. Yeah,
but I've heard that these brothers were actually working on behalf of the FBI on like a counter-terrorism task force type thing, and they thought they were just playing like a role play, like a red team. They were just going to do a war game exercise and pretend they were doing all these things, and the bomb actually went off, and they were like just as surprised as anybody. They realized they were being set up and fled the scene. And it is interesting that they admit that he met with the FBI because he was the target of one of these lists. But what if he's actually meeting with them for other reasons? Like, it's weird. They always have him on the radar.
This is what I've heard too, and this is kind of what I assume happened. There's a lot of attention on this case, people suggesting that like nobody was injured, and what we're seeing is fake. But I've actually got some pretty high resolution images of like that one famous dude whose leg was blown off, and I got to tell you, when I'm looking at it in like glorious 4K, it sure looks like it's actually a leg that's blown off. And if you've ever actually seen blood on the ground after like a real event, real blood has a very different look to it than stage blood. Stage blood, which is going to be like corn syrup with dye in it, it's dark, but it kind of looks clear. Human blood on the ground has an opaque look to it, and it's very bright red at first, and then it will gradually change color as it oxidizes. And there are some pretty realistic images. I'm not saying that I don't think that this wasn't a false flag or some type of a setup. I think that what's most likely is that the brothers were set up and that they were working with the FBI. They were doing counterterrorism stuff. They were probably giving information about the local mosque or whatever. And the FBI saw them as an easy prey to set up as the patsies in this bombing. And they ran and they were like, there's nothing we can do. Like, they've already pinned us as the guilty parties. If you want me to share those images, I can share those images.
So if you are queasy or I don't know,
If
don't
you
like
drank
gore,
eggnog before the show,
an eggnog drinker, look away.
To your point, Zach and John, that's, I mean, I guess I'll skip to I do have a thesis here, and it is that you know, gun to my head, what do I think happened, to just go to the end at the beginning. I believe that this was a real attack that resulted in these damages.
Where's the rest of his leg?
Well, it's completely blown off. He
gone.
was standing like right next to one of those pressure bombs.
But how did the bone stay there?
Well, I mean, okay, I really don't know. I mean, like, there was like stuff in the pressure bomb, inside the pressure cooker, right? Like, I mean, it was there was like flying debris, bombs, nails and stuff. So, I mean, it's, you know, it was enough to blow off his foot and then just his calf, basically.
Wouldn't it be a lot more blood than that?
Well, I mean, again, because it's blowing up, I mean, some of the blood's going to go with the explosion. Some of it's going to go right here. At this point, he's allegedly squeezing his femoral artery right there to stop himself from bleeding out. And this is another reason why people think that, you know, maybe this guy already was an amputee. I've actually seen breakdowns of people suggesting he already was an amputee and that perhaps there were others that were amputees. And, you know, I think that this is how you pull off a good false flag. You know, you have a mixture of theater and real life blood and guts mixed in with it so that it becomes...
I think that's the case. I think, and who knows, right? But actually, here's a video here. This is very grainy, but I remember this going around at the time. It was the only one of the videos I found at the time that I could still find on Rumble. I believe this might be that guy. Maybe it's somebody else.
But it's later on in the video, and now we're going to watch the guy with the blown off legs get wheeled out by the cowboy hat dude.
So that became a big story.
The guy in the yellow. They're going to come into the scene right here in just a few seconds. And I want you to watch what happens as they come down here toward the bottom of the screen. They get down toward here. Somebody says something, and the yellow guy comes around, and about to get here, he puts that dude's legs back on. So check this out. You're not going to believe this. Okay? He's not checking him as they go, so he's not seeing it. He's not seeing what's happening. Somebody tells him, watch this. Okay. They're coming in right now. Here they come, right here. Here they come. Uh-oh, something's wrong. Wait a minute, we got to get, his leg is there. There you go.
Oh, it's
Let
hard
me
to
show
tell.
it to you again.
Yeah.
It was just too funny.
She might have been
Can you possibly slow that down?
Okay,
it was a
prosthetic,
apparently.
Right, here they come, down the middle. Here they come. And the yellow guy's, oh shit. Wait a minute, stop. His leg is fucking, okay, that's better.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean,
I didn't necessarily see it.
I went down so many of these rabbit holes in 2013 in terms of was the event itself real or fake. My conclusion's pretty similar to Zach's. I believe that there was explosions and damages, and I do think that there were crisis actors as well, sort of all mixed in. I definitely believe this was a planned event. That was one of the more famous.
That looks more real. But it doesn't look like that when he's laying on the ground. Like the skin flap isn't anywhere.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I can't specifically account for it. Let me go back to the other one, and we can compare them. All right, so
maybe on the side of it there.
Yeah, there is a skin flap hanging back there.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but you know, I mean, when it comes to faking this stuff, I guess that I just go to Occam's razor. I mean, do the people who would put on a false flag attack have any compunction about killing us?
Oh no,
I think the obvious answer is no.
Right.
But
it's easier.
It's easier if people die, because then you have real emotion. Then you have people who are affected, and people are going to tell stories. But then, of course, you're going to throw in crisis actors. You're going to throw in people who are going to play a part. And then it muddies the waters. You know, I mean, like there is a very famous female crisis actor who has been present at like no fewer than like 5 or 6 different events. It's this crying woman. She's very well known for being supposedly the mother of one of the victims at the Pulse nightclub shooting. But she also had children at a number of other shootings, like Sandy Hook. I know specifically she was at Sandy Hook. And it's so obviously her. Like, it's very clearly her. And every time she's crying and every time she's demanding gun control and, you know, she's there as a crisis actor. She's playing a part. You know
what
I
you
mean,
said there, Zach. Like that's how I personally feel about most of these things. Like you'll hear people say, like, oh, it's just the whole thing is fake. The whole thing is fake.
Mhm.
And to me, it's not worth the risk to fake something when these people don't give a shit about actually doing the thing that they're saying they're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why fake a false flag when they don't care? They'll just do the false flag. They'll just the false flag part of it is who's actually behind
The
it.
story.
It's not who they tell us it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's one of the things I say a lot about narrative warfare, and the reason I'm so interested in that is because people can say, "Oh, well, what if X event is real? Then why are you talking about narrative warfare?" Well, narrative warfare is still the most important thing to talk about, because if it's a real event, you have to know that the story you're being told about the real event is true. And you know, the reason I lay out the martial arts history of these guys, especially the elder brother, Tamerlan, I do think it's relevant in that it's what set alarms off in my head in 2013 that this felt like a setup gone wrong. There was a lot of security footage at the time that was showing the behavior of the Tsarnaev brothers after the bombs went off, like shortly after the bombs went off, where they dropped there was a lot of footage of them dropping the backpacks and then kind of moving through the crowd. John, you mentioned earlier, Tamerlan, according to his parents, this is all according to, he had designs on becoming an FBI operative. That's what Tamerlan wanted to do, according to his parents. And then he's at this event. They put these backpacks down. It does look like the Tsarnaev brothers put these backpacks down. And when the backpacks go off, the brothers, the elder brother grabs the younger one, Zokhar, and runs. And that might sound like normal, but to me, at the time, it struck me as extremely bizarre because the behavior of the brothers felt like they were shocked at what was happening, even though you can see that they're the ones who did carry the backpacks in and put the backpacks down, that then when the backpacks go off, they start like running and freak out. And then, you know, the big story of why, partly besides the attack, of why this became so sensationalized was, especially within Boston itself, I think there was a movie about it with Mark Wahlberg, a propaganda piece, was all about the police chase that they led the Boston police on and the FBI on. And it took them a while to get these guys, to the point where by the end of it, one cop was dead. An MIT cop was dead. Tamerlan was dead. But he had been in apparently an epic shootout with police around MIT. Like, he had stolen 2 different vehicles. He was on this wild goose chase, and all the while his brother ended up getting away from the initial exchanges, and it took them like another 12 hours or more to find the younger brother. And just for some reason, even before deep dives in conspiracy world, it struck me as the behavior struck me as an older brother trying to protect a younger brother. Now, that can also be the case if these guys are terrorists, right? But I'm just saying, if the story that you played at the beginning, John, like the Wall Street Journal, this is what happened. We've got these Syrian Muslim extremists. those guys are okay with going down. Like, on any terrorist attack ever of extremists, you don't get the extremists that lead police on a 2-day goose chase all through neighborhoods, and one of the jihadists is trying to protect the other one and make sure he gets away. And all the pattern of how the police chase developed was so strange to me that I started looking into the Tsarnaev brothers, specifically the comments that their parents made to the media very publicly, where Zach had said before the show, the Tsarnaev brothers' parents claim that the FBI set their sons up and made them patsies. They were claiming this in 2013. And I remember being at a Boston bar, and CNN they were so confident in their propaganda at the time that they were playing hysterical videos of the Tsarnaev mother accusing the FBI of killing her sons, or her son, that they were like, look at this idiot. Like, look how crazy these people are. And people in the Boston bars at the time, of course, are just like, Islamic extremist, case closed. There's another big smoking gun in this case that I can get to, but there's plenty with the two brothers.
We'll get there, because let us interject here. So one thing, it is interesting how quickly they figured out who it was. Like, it was almost immediately, wasn't it? It's almost like the passports falling out of the airplane on 9/11.
Or L. Paul Bremer on 9/11 saying Osama bin Laden on CNN within 5 minutes, and everybody's like, who the hell is Osama bin Laden? How do you know that Osama bin Laden is responsible for this?
Or Alex Jones saying it beforehand.
Yeah.
Like, he was also in on it. But just kidding. I do have a video that I want to play that Wild Boar sent over, and it has to do with like crisis actors, like amputees literally playing as crisis actors. But I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, I was going to say, before we play that, I had a couple more pictures from the initial aftermath of the blast. So, let's just war game this out. If this guy really was an amputee ahead of time, then, they would have some sort of advanced damage prosthetics that they could just slip on him real quickly. You can see in this image, this is right after the bomb goes off, and a lot of people are freaking out, clutching each other, clinging to the ground. And I've seen people say, why are people just laying there? Well, if their feet are full of nails and broken glass and a bomb just went off, maybe they can't run. Maybe they're waiting for people. But you can see here, he's got his legs up in the air, and there's no bones. He's this one right here on the ground on the left. Gray shirt, black sleeves. All right. And these are his two legs.
Zoom in at all. It's so hard to tell anything in that picture.
His back of his head is to the camera.
Yeah.
So he's facing away from the camera.
All right. That's as zoomed as I can get. This is the back of his head right here. There is his gray shirt with black sleeves. These are his legs. Now, he's supposed to be a runner. And this is definitely something that I've questioned previously. He seems to have really skinny thighs for being a runner. I understand people get they get fit when they're doing long distance running, but you're also going to develop muscle in your legs. He doesn't really appear to have any muscle built up in his thighs.
Well, it just got blown off, Zach.
Well, okay. He got blown off below the knee, right? So he would still maintain the musculature of his thighs. Now, go to the next photo, and you've got him starting to lift his leg up, but you've also got like these people right here that could potentially be maybe slipping on a prosthetic or something like that, which it might be what we saw. Now, he had shorts on, so they very easily could make a prosthetic that would go up the entire length of his thigh and basically, just hinge up there at his hips, at his buttocks, just stick on right there. And then you're going to see what they want you to see, which is, of course, the blood and the guts. And then here he is now, again, lifting it up. You can see you've got this bone right here. Now, another thing that I know many people have said is that, why do you not see more blood at this moment in time? It takes a moment for the body to start pumping all of your blood out from that spot. I mean, you're going to have an initial blood, but if there was an explosion, if this is real, then you're also going to have like a cauterization effect. Some of it is going to be like sealed off at that moment. And it might just take a moment for all of that blood inside of him to start gushing out. Really, honestly, another reason that many people have suggested that this guy was already an amputee is because it's kind of unbelievable. That's why they called him Miracle Man, because it's kind of unbelievable to think that his femoral artery would have been severed like that, and he didn't just bleed out altogether all at once.
Well, and he had like the wherewithal to block his femoral artery. Like that's
yeah.
You know, like was his background that he knew that he was versed in trauma response or something. I mean, most people would not know to clutch their femoral artery.
Yeah.
Most people don't know where that is. Never mind that's what your first reaction would be. Look at this guy in the shades. He looks a little casual.
Yeah, he does. He looks way too casual. Yeah. And I don't even know what's going on over here. I mean, obviously, it looks like we have some injuries to the legs.
Well, that's
here.
that black woman. That's the same lady. That's with the Miracle Man.
Right. But what is this that we're looking at here? Is that like a torso injury? Like,
or is that the leg guys, the Miracle Man's blood?
Yeah, but I mean, it almost looks like organs coming out of her chest right there.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got
suspect.
Yeah, it's all suspect. I mean, totally, all of it.
And it is suspect, and I still think like the actual explosion happened and people actually got hurt, but that doesn't mean there might not have been people inserted in there too.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And that's why I think this video is actually pretty interesting that he sent over, because this is like. Let me play this real quick, and we can come back to that video, because this is what people think happened. A lot of people that believe this is the whole thing was a conspiracy and fake. Check it out.
There's a unique opportunity out there for them, training American men and women in uniform. Just a quick warning for you before we watch this piece. Some of the images in the story are tough to look at.
On this simulated battlefield, it's hard to determine what's real and what's not.
We call it hyper-realistic.
Kit Lavelle served in Vietnam and now runs strategic operations, a movie set turned training ground, preparing thousands of U.S. servicemen and women for combat.
Individuals who are going through the training here are not expecting to see an amputee. So the shock effect of seeing that happen is priceless.
The action is fake, but the amputees are real. They're actors with a unique perspective on what others would consider a disability.
It's more of a gift. I need to share it with people. You think this is a gift? It is a gift.
Heather Morales lost her right leg to cancer when she was just 8.
Yeah, just, you can come up. I just wanted to
Ted and June DiStefano both lost their left leg in a tragic accident.
A car came around the corner too fast and hit us. It's a trauma that's been changed, that can change other people's lives as well as my own. It's become an asset.
I went through similar training here recently, and it's as real as it gets. It's preparation that we do as journalists before we go into a hostile environment. And when I was working myself on these amputee actors,
pause it for a second.
It's
like we've got back-to-back amputees talking about their becoming assets.
Yeah.
And journalists talking about their trauma training. Like, again, you can take that either way, but sometimes it really does feel like the media is telling you, like, hey guys, to clear our karma, this is literally what we're doing to you every night on the news. We are trained for this, you fucking idiots.
Yeah,
insane.
That's exactly.
Did you see how realistic it looked?
Yeah, it looks totally very realistic.
Like, people would be dissecting those images. Is like, see, is it real? Is it not? Is it real?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and here's the thing. That this is something I don't think people think about enough. Maybe people in our community do. When you're watching like a John Wick movie, you're watching it in 4K, high definition, and it looks realistic in 4K high definition. And the stakes are very low. By that I mean the John Wick studio is not trying to convince you that what's happening is real.
Mm-hmm.
They just want you to enjoy the movie, and it looks real. Now imagine the most powerful production company ever you don't have 4K images. You have grainy pictures that are fed to you by media organizations. And you have an incentive structure entirely crafted around maintaining a certain narrative. Like the idea people have that this would be difficult to fake is absurd, considering in fact how easy it would be to fake. Not to mention the fact that the very idea that the vast majority of people can't even consider the fact that this could be fake makes it even easier to fake.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I was going to pull up this perfect tweet to show you guys. 60 Minutes did an interview with a Mossad agent where they're talking about how, you know, like we write the scripts and you're just living in the movie. And it's been taken down.
No, I can grab it for you. Let me finish this video and I'll go grab it.
Yeah.
What made me really want to tell their story?
Yeah, well, I've met people that have already gone through the training and have gone overseas and come back and say that the training helped me.
Really?
Yeah, those are the best. When they come back and say you made a difference, those are amazing.
Having amputee actors, what does that add to this? What does that mean?
Complete realism, because it actually is more realistic, and it gives them that firsthand knowledge of what to do in case of a casualty.
Most importantly, it takes away the shock.
Personally, haven't been there. It means so much big difference to actually working with these people to actually simulate with real life combat.
Personally, I would say thank you, because they're putting out for the military personnel new experience that we need to save lives.
You can see it in their eyes that it's really affecting them.
Do they cry?
Oh, yeah.
You've had servicemen and women in training cry seeing you.
Yes, I have.
Do you cry?
Absolutely.
For the amputees, what could be traumatic is far from it. What is it for you?
Maybe that's enough. So much big difference, though. Love that. Broken English.
Never trust an amputee.
Oh, yes, here it is.
Those are, I've always lived by that kind of logic, and it's never failed me.
Yep. And so this is Mossad doing a 60-minute interview, just sitting down, full black mask. We can play guess the agent when this is over.
How did you convince Hezbollah to buy this?
Well, obviously, they didn't know that they were buying it from Israel.
Who did they buy it from, or think they were buying it from?
We have an incredible array of possibilities of creating foreign companies that have no way being traced back to Israel, shell companies over shell companies who affect the supply chain to our favor. We create a pretend world. We are a global production company. We write the screenplay. We're the directors. We're the producers. We're the main actors. The world is our stage.
How did you...
Why is he wearing glasses over a completely blacked out hood?
I believe that this is Patriot, Ghost in the Machine, memeing on the InfoWar in a very similar fashion to the videos that we played in the last couple of years. John, remember the Ukrainian recruitment video where they're telling everybody to be very quiet about the Ukrainian offensive that they're broadcasting over national
Don't tell anybody.
Right?
It's like this, like the press corps asking President Trump if he's going to do preemptive strikes on Iran.
Yeah.
Like, why the hell would I tell you that?
So I don't know. I mean, this is like they could have just run all of our Substacks and shows through an AI, and this guy would have spit that out.
Well, it's also funny. This is Patriot Front. They just shut down. They said they're shutting down their operations a month ago or something.
When the new administration comes in,
and now they're just rebroadcasting them as Mossad agents.
Rebranding.
Yeah. Well, it's not so far from the truth, I think.
So funny.
I'm gonna see if I can find that.
I want to show just a couple, bits of context for people that this is near and dear to my heart. So, and I hate to play this because, man, it makes me have to go down the sports are fake rabbit hole. And since we dominate everybody in sports, that's tough for a Bostonian to do. So after the April Boston bombing attack, blah, 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 obviously became a national story, became a massive Boston story. Happened on opening day of the Red Sox season, which is what Marathon Monday. So Big Papi, David Ortiz, 2013, he gives this speech at Fenway Park. For context, the Red Sox in 2012 were in 5th place in the AL East. They were one of the worst teams in baseball. They were in a full rebuild. They had no new players to speak of in 2013, expected to finish in 5th place again. They go on to win the World Series in 2013. And this is Ortiz's little speech there that went viral in Boston. And this is Boston legend.
All right, Boston. This jersey that we wear today, it doesn't say Red Sox. It say Boston. We want to thank you, Mayor Menino, Governor Patrick, the whole police department, for the great job that they did this past week. This is our city. And nobody gonna dictate our freedom.
So that's the infamous clip. This is our fucking city. Boston Strong came out of that.
I remember that.
You know, inculcated the rest of the nation with it. Here's the Ukraine. Look at those sneaky Ukrainians sneaking around.
Don't tell anybody.
You're never gonna catch them. So Papi, the reason, again, sometimes it's this pattern recognition that brought most of us to the info war. You're like, okay, so Boston bombing, Marathon Monday, during a Red Sox game, they were the team chosen to be the mascot of the response to this. They go from worst to first, is the saying in Boston, win the World Series. Big Papi says, this is our fucking city. That becomes the rallying call around Boston. And it's like, hey, you guys, I don't know if you remember, but in the aftermath of 9/11, who wins the Super Bowl? The New England Patriots. They went from worst to first.
Yep.
They win the Super Bowl. Robert Kraft famously says, today we are all patriots, as a response to the attacks of 9/11. And I don't know. I mean, I like sports, which is why it pains me to say that, man, a lot of the champions tend to be conveniently lined up with the messaging around major media narratives over the years.
So Ortiz doesn't really look like an Ortiz. Is he like Cuban or Dominican or something?
He's Dominican, but he's a good Irish boy, I think.
Doesn't look like an Ortiz. What are you saying there, Zach?
I mean, he doesn't look like Hispanic. I mean, that's why I was asking specifically if he was from that part of the world, because that would make sense.
I'm still salty that he went to Boston instead of staying with the Twins. It's bullshit. Salty that he left the Twins for the Red Sox.
That's why you should take the opportunity to call it fake.
Did he leave before or after the events of the Boston bombing?
Probably before.
Okay. All right.
I didn't see him as a crisis actor.
I just want to fact check this. Hurricane Katrina, because this is a great example.
From the chat.
Dave.
I believe the New Orleans Saints won the Super Bowl in the year of Hurricane Katrina.
No shit. Are you for real?
They did.
The year after.
We should look at every single freaking disaster and see if this happens. Yep. Wow. I guess I don't follow sports, so I don't even know any of these things.
So just for reference, Zach, the New Orleans Saints have won one championship in the modern era, and it was considered a shock. And it was the year following the Hurricane Katrina. Now,
especially because they couldn't even play at home, right?
Yeah. Normiville eats these kinds of narratives up, right? Because they take it as, oh, this is the players stepping up and tapping into that human spirit and fighting for their city. But
didn't the Patriots win in 2001?
Yes.
After
the 2001 Super Bowl. No, it was the 2002 Super Bowl. It was the 2001 season.
So it was after 9/11, though.
Yes, it was. Yeah, exactly. That's what I meant. Is that like the Patriots win following 9/11, and Robert Kraft famously says, "We're all patriots tonight." He was referencing 9/11 and like the country coming together, and the Patriots. Of course, the Patriots became the evil empire in the NFL and won 1 million Super Bowls. But at that time, we were the laughingstock. So it was a total Cinderella story. They beat the defending champion St. Louis Rams with Kurt Warner. So they were heavy underdogs entering that Super Bowl. So it was like the Americana. The whole country was rooting for Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Yeah.
So
I'm reading a bunch of threads out there, and they're like the Patriots winning the Super Bowl on 9/11 is one of them, even though it's a different city. The Saints after Katrina. India won the cricket bowl after an Indian tsunami. If that helps. That's really it. But this is from back in 2011. So
what was that tsunami in Asia?
Indonesia.
Did Indonesia win anything of note? That would probably be cricket too. Or I wonder if Japan
women's soccer team won the World Cup after a bad tsunami.
Women don't count with conspiracies or just in general.
That's true.
That was a total crapshoot. They didn't mean for that one to happen.
So, again, part of why I play is our sports fake. I don't know. I really don't know. But I still watch them. I still like it. But it's more, let's say it's real. Let's even just say that the Red Sox really did win the World Series and it was really all organic. It just shows that the Boston bombing, like so many of these attacks, are branded. Like Boston Strong became a brand associated with Boston. And it was just like, yeah, that's our thing. Remember? Because like people got blown up at the marathon and then we were like, hey, that's bad. You shouldn't do that at marathons or just in general. You shouldn't blow people up. And that's the big stand Bostonians made. To this day, people in Boston still think you shouldn't blow people up.
Wait a second. What was the date that this happened?
April 15th, 2013.
Okay, you know what's interesting is that Lance Armstrong, who had Live Strong, he got exposed at like the end of 2012, beginning of 2013. So they had to like phase out Live Strong, and they rebranded it Boston Strong.
And it was the armbands.
Yeah, it was
the Boston Strong arm. Oh my God!
Wow!
Zach.
Now we have a motive.
We have a motive. Do you know how much money they made on those fucking armbands?
Wow!
Oh, that's great.
So we can blame Lance Armstrong's testicles for this.
And I can tell you at the time, as an obnoxious Bostonian, fresh out of college, it was annoying to Bostonians at the time, the Boston Strong thing. So I can only imagine how annoying it was for the rest of the country.
You're still an annoying Bostonian.
Well, I know, but we are
by
the
the way.
best. I mean, it just
Okay, you said you had another juicy nugget for us, and
I have a lot of juicy nuggets. I want to first show you. Have you guys heard of the concept of thin slicing?
No, I have not.
In conspiracy world. So this might be more of a literature concept. I'll share the Wikipedia article on it. I am going somewhere with this. So thin slicing is a term used in psychology and philosophy to describe the ability to find patterns in events based on only thin slices or narrow windows of experience.
Can you zoom out? Like, I feel like we're way too close to... This thing is such big print right now.
Are you kidding me?
Thin slice.
Perfect. Thank you.
So, anyway, this concept of thin slicing is about pattern recognition, right? We all do it. And supposedly in the 90s, they did studies that demonstrated that people who were using thin slicing were as accurate as people who were spending a lot of time digging into the details, which I love to hear. So basically, like, somebody just giving their impressions of what they think happened at an event are as accurate as people that spend 6 months researching the event of figuring out what happened.
That's very interesting.
This came out of a guy named Malcolm Gladwell. He wrote Blink, The Power of Thinking Without Thinking.
Yes.
This was a kind of famous in philosophy and psychology circles, the idea of instinctive thinking and intuitive thinking and all that kind of stuff. It is connected to the West Memphis 3. I don't know if you've done this, Zach. Have you guys done this?
Yeah. I mean, I have on my own, and this is actually one that's on the list. But this is, I mean, this is a fascinating case, especially because it's had like more movement in just like the last 2 years.
Yeah, so, for real, zoom in just like a tad. There you go.
Is this better?
Yeah.
So the West Memphis 3, this isn't a dive on that, but the West Memphis 3 is refuting what I just said. The concept of thin slicing is such that you just get a couple slices of the story. You're probably as accurate as putting together the pieces as somebody who deep dives, right? The West Memphis 3 is an infamous example of where they say thin slicing got these 3 guys sentenced based on a ritualistic satanic murder. You know, it was the Satanic Panic. This was in the 90s, early 90s. The common belief is that these guys were innocent of the crime that they were accused of, and that the reason that they were accused or convicted rather is they were like these goth kids, they were outsiders. So pretty much they fit the slices, they fit the template that everybody wanted somebody to fit who would have committed this kind of a crime. The reason I bring all this up in relation to the Boston bombings, I was looking for the original social media posts. I could not find them except for in YouTube videos that had screenshots of them. But Dzhokhar Tsarnaev was very interested in the concept of thin slicing and of the Memphis 3.
Interesting.
And this is a post on a blog platform that this person marked down. So the post in question was written by UMass Dartmouth English teacher Shalley Smith on the concept of thin slicing as it pertained to the case of the West Memphis 3. I believe thin slicing put them in jail. It helped an entire community make rash decisions and justify their actions in convicting 3 teens of murder. In response, a commenter listed as Dzhokhar Tsarnaev posted the following a week and a half after the original posting. In this case, it would have been hard to protect or defend these young boys if the whole town exclaimed in happiness at the arrest. Also, to go against the authorities isn't the easiest thing to do. Don't get me wrong, though. I'm appalled at the situation, but I think that the town was scared and desperate to blame someone. It's because of stories like this and such occurrences that make a positive change in this world. I'm pretty sure there won't be any more similar tales like this. In any case, if they do, people won't stand quiet, I hope. There are screenshots of his original...
Irony.
The irony.
So, you know, it's weird. Like at the very least, it's interesting that him and his brother then get accused of the Boston Marathon bombing. And John...
That was a week before?
No, that was 2 years before.
Yeah, okay. A week after the original comment.
Gotcha.
Right. That was 2011 that he made those comments. He was a UMass Dartmouth student, the younger Tsarnaev. And again, like A++ student, like very well educated, well liked, prime athlete, literally D1 athlete. He was being recruited for wrestling. So I've maybe mentioned as anecdotes, these boys were Chechen, ethnically Chechen. Their family later immigrated to Dagestan, but the boys went to the U.S. and their parents had split up. The boys were in the U.S. going to school. Dagestani wrestlers and Chechen wrestlers are by many orders of magnitude the best in the world.
Why is
there
that?
are
superior
I don't know.
genetics.
Yeah, it's something in the blood there. They've got this mix of Iranian folk wrestling and American wrestling and being in a war-torn region that makes them incredibly difficult to beat. For anybody in the chat who might be familiar, Khabib Nurmagomedov is the only UFC champion to ever retire undefeated. He was a Dagestani wrestler. His training partner, who was the worst version of him, or a lesser version of him, is the current UFC lightweight champion, Islam Makhachev. His 2 cousins are both challenging for UFC belts this year. So like Dagestani wrestling, Chechen wrestlers, they are absolute savages.
So, just anecdotally, your description of Dzhokhar, I mean, he's a perfect recruit for an intel agency to come in and scoop up and mold to turn into an asset or an operative.
Well, I think that Tamerlan was his older brother.
Yeah.
Dzhokhar was a math whiz and a D1 wrestler, and apparently a very meek sort of introspective kid. The older brother, as I mentioned, the only anecdotes I have of him is that he was an aggressive guy. He was not well liked by the people that I knew that knew him. I did know Doomsday Howard. He didn't have anything good to say about him. But of course, these are all people who admittedly believe the central narrative of the Boston bombing.
Right.
So
who's going to give him a glowing review after all of this happened?
You're like, yeah, I mean, the guy was a dick in the gym. I mean, you're not going to say, but I will say to push back on that for me and you, you would expect that from Dzhokhar's associates, and that is not what you got out of Dzhokhar's friends. Yeah. Dzhokhar's friends in university were absolutely shocked. Which is why the narrative was then crafted that certainly Dzhokhar didn't know what was going on here. And in fact, during the trials that I believe occurred it might have taken until 2018, where the trial was, Dzhokhar's attorneys essentially used the argument that Tamerlan had led him into this whole thing and he didn't even know what was going on. Mm-hmm. It's possible that that's true. It's just that... the behavior of the brothers after the event, it really looks like, even according to the police who responded and the federal agents who responded, basically claimed that every move Tamerlan made seemed to be in defense of his brother. So if you're Tamerlan and you lured your brother into committing a terrorist strike, you didn't think anything was going to happen as a result of that? Mm-hmm. It just doesn't fit to me. It feels to me like Tamerlan realized, shit, this is not what I thought it was.
Yeah.
We're fucked. Dzhokhar was discovered in Watertown.
Can I show you guys something quick?
Yeah,
because I searched the FBI vault and I found the transcript of the FBI meeting with them. It's just 2 pages and there's something very interesting at the end of it. And I want to read this. So this is their interview with Tamerlan. Okay, on April 22nd, 2011, they have his social security number and everything, phone number, address, apartment. He was interviewed at his residence.
Sorry, John, who is doing this interview? The FBI?
Yeah.
Yes, they're interviewing Tamerlan,
older brother.
Sinarov. Yep. Yeah. Also present for the interview was so-and-so, redacted. After being advised as to the identities of the interviewing agents and the nature of the interview, Tamerlan provided the following information. The 4 men who identified themselves as FBI to blank were all young, handsome men in suits. So this is Tamerlan saying this, by the way. So people apparently approached him as FBI. One of the men was very tan, but no identification was provided. They didn't provide business cards or contact numbers. None of the men had accents, and blank did not see what type of car they arrived or left in. I wonder if this could be his brother, the redacted.
The car thing is actually like a big conspiracy rabbit hole, but it's a separate...
Anyway, the men wanted to talk to Tamerlan. The men said they would be back the next day, but did not return. Blank and Tamerlan have not heard from them since. Tamerlan doesn't know why anyone would be looking for him. Tamerlan doesn't know anyone who may be upset with him. Tamerlan has never had any problems with Russians in the U.S. due to his Chechen heritage. Wars are fought between leaders of countries and not individual citizens. Putin and Medvedev are the problem, not the Russian people. Tamerlan has had Russian friends in the U.S. Tamerlan has been boxing since he was 12 years old with blank. Tamerlan wants to box for the U.S. Olympic team, but does not have his citizenship yet. Tamerlan expressed an interest in the Spartan warrior culture. Tamerlan has not thought about joining the military because he wants to become a professional boxer. He doesn't like to fight for the sake of violence. Tamerlan has fought to protect others. Tamerlan was in several fights as a child in school in Kyrgyzstan.
They were born in Kyrgyzstan.
Yep. Tamerlan stood up for the kids that were being bullied by others. Tamerlan never picked a fight. Tamerlan trains at several area gyms to include Y Crew Boston.
There it is.
Tamerlan mostly trains in boxing, but also does some jiu-jitsu. A few years ago, a French photographer took several photos of Tamerlan training. The photographer put several quotes under the photographs of Tamerlan. One quote said that Tamerlan had no American friends. Tamerlan stated that this was a misquote. Most of Tamerlan's friends were Americans. Tamerlan spends all of his time with friends at the gyms he trains at. The French photographer did not speak good English. If you search for Tamerlan Tsarnaev on the internet, it will bring you to the photographs of Tamerlan by the photographer. Tamerlan recently quit his job with Boston Pizza Express in Brighton of Brooklyn Avenue. Tamerlan has previously worked at Home Depot and as a cook. Tamerlan is trying to get a job as a painter for the summer. Blank, 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 some redacted stuff. Tamerlan has
the trainer in the first redacted quote, by the way, is Peter Welsh. I know that for a fact.
Okay. But listen to this. This is where it gets interesting. Tamerlan has respect for all religions and feels that any religion makes your life better. Tamerlan hopes to move his family to Revere, Massachusetts in the coming year. Tamerlan goes to mosque in Cambridge once a week for Friday prayers. Tamerlan doesn't have any Muslim friends. There are 3 to 4 guys at the mosque that Tamerlan knows from high school. Tamerlan doesn't know any of the other worshippers. Tamerlan recognizes people but doesn't know their names. Tamerlan doesn't think there could be any Islamic radicals in Cambridge. Tamerlan goes on the internet to read the news and current events. He doesn't search for anything related to extremist Islamic material. Tamerlan is aware that these websites exist, but he doesn't look at them. Tamerlan has 3 email addresses but never uses them. The only address he ever checks is Tamerlan_Tsarnaev at Yahoo, but he hasn't checked his account in 3 to 4 months. He's not traveled to Saudi Arabia for the Hajj because of the cost of the trip. Tamerlan and blank want to make the trip in the future. Tamerlan was open to all contact with the FBI and report any additional contact with the 4 unidentified individuals who claim to be FBI.
That's crazy.
Yeah. This doesn't sound like an extremist.
So John, this interview is what his parents were freaking out about when they were being interviewed by Western media, is because Tamerlan told them that about this interview. So they knew that he was being interviewed. What they don't say in that interview is that Tamerlan had expressed interest in being a federal agent, which is what I'm wondering is if that's what had triggered the interview or not. And, you know, when you read that, this is where who fucking knows, right? Maybe these guys are bad, bloodthirsty killers. My gut tells me that they are patsies and that these were innocent kids. That's truly what I believe. And a lot of it in that write-up that you just showed, it's like a profile where Tamerlan, what I heard of him, was similar to what that readout says. He was a loner. He didn't have a lot of friends. His whole social life was in the gym. He didn't really speak good English. And then that's why a lot of the training partners, I feel like after the fact, they were able to assign all of these traits to him in hindsight. And what does the FBI look for? They look for somebody who doesn't have a lot of connections. His parents aren't around him. He doesn't have a lot of friends in the area. And it's just, it's an easy sort
to
of mark.
manipulate. Yeah.
Yep. So, you know, it's just never, you know, when you look at the template for patsies, I feel like, I'm not even saying traditional patsies are guilty, but just the people that they use for patsies that I'm sure you guys have covered more than any other show, they seem to usually be people who are kind of at dead ends. They're running toward dead ends. And I think the reason that the Boston bombing galvanized so many conspiracies is because that's not the case with these boys. Tamerlan had a wife, or at least a fiance, from the local area that was absolutely shocked by this whole thing, and they were either married or going to get married. He wanted to have kids. He was again, I know for a fact he was extremely talented in combat sports. Doomsday Howard thought that he was going to be one of the leaders of his pro team. So it's just a strange, they're not the usual guys you would pick for throw it all away sort of guys. Tamerlan maybe less so than his younger brother Dzhokhar. But, you know, another little wrinkle to it is that Dzhokhar, so Tamerlan leads the police on this whole wild goose chase with his brother, right? And that's why it became so sensational. The Mark Wahlberg movie Patriot Day, I think, is based on the whole chase afterwards. And it took them the whole weekend to get these guys. Yeah. An MIT police officer ended up dead. Dzhokhar, he cut a hole in the winterized tarp of somebody's boat in their backyard and hid in there. Tamerlan put him in there. So Tamerlan had cut a hole in this boat, put his brother in there, and then led the police with the car on this whole chase and goes out in this blaze of glory, right? So it's like, again, if you led your brother into this death trap that you knew, like, you're a jihadist and you're going to go to whatever the hell, you're going to go to paradise, like, you're going to go on this wild goose chase and hide your brother to make sure he doesn't get caught. It didn't make sense. One thing that stuck out to me at the time is that there was supposedly a big shootout when they found Dzhokhar, and Dzhokhar's vocal cords were damaged to the point where all the media was told he couldn't communicate verbally with any of them, which is why I have one of my headlines here. Go ahead if you guys.
Well,
have
just
anything.
I'm wondering what was the reasoning for the damage to the vocal cords.
Well,
he was shot. He was shot in the neck.
Oh, he was shot in the neck. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, I should've
I'm
said
confused because
Yeah.
the only other thing published from or about Tamerlan in the FBI vault is the incident, like the reporting of this dude's death, the cop, to report the line of duty death of Sean Collier. They're saying in this report that they had a shootout with the two people. So they allegedly stole this car, killed
Yeah.
the officer, had a shootout, and then during the shootout they got away, and that's
During the
when
shootout,
he hid the younger brother.
Supposedly, according to I mixed my theory with the official story. I should concentrate on the official story. The official story, to your point, is that they kill this cop. There's a shootout that ensues. The elder Tsarnaev is killed in that shootout while the younger takes the car and escapes. That is the official narrative. Then the manhunt was for the younger Tsarnaev, and it took them a long time to find him. They found him holed up in the hull of a boat that he had apparently cut his way into through a tarp. There was a shootout at the boat. He was shot through the neck, damaged his vocal cords. He couldn't give a sworn statement verbally, but luckily for us, his hand still worked. So the Boston Marathon bomber told FBI agents he and his brother acted alone, court documents say. Unable to speak, Dzhokhar answered the FBI agents' questions in handwritten notes, scrawled in thick black ink. This is him, by the way. But this is 2018.
So even in 2018, he's
well.
still
That's what I'm trying to
mute.
figure out. That's what I'm trying to figure out of what the timing is here from his
That's
hospital
wild.
bed. So this can't be 2018.
No,
Yeah.
that's interviews
Yeah.
from his hospital bed.
Yeah. But the statements that were the reason in 2018 it was coming up is because that's when the trial was. The statements that were introduced into evidence were all taken from 2013, and he wasn't able to verbally deliver any statements. So all of the statements were handwritten notes that feds signed off on to explain how his brother had led him into this whole
But you
situation.
think the brother hid him and then
Yes.
went and hijacked the car, or did any of that stuff even happen?
I don't know, but I mean that cop died. Like that happened. I don't know. I mean, I'm willing to believe. Basically, I think most of this story can be true in terms of the actions of Tamerlan Tsarnaev. If he figured out that he had been set up, and him and his brother were set up, from what I heard about that guy, I think if he figured out that he was set up and he was going to die, he was going to do everything he could to protect his brother, and he would have done anything to protect him. So, all the rest of it might be true in terms of what the elder did.
Let me ask you this. I just saw this in the chat, and I actually remember from the concurrently as this was going on, some discussion about the backpacks not matching, like the backpacks they were photographed wearing versus the backpacks that actually contained the bombs.
So there's a lot of stuff that I didn't bring. Like there's some other links, even stuff. Remember in 2013, I was looking at InfoWars stuff, and
Sure.
now I'm very suspect of that. The reason I didn't bring that stuff up is because I just have no way of knowing if the articles I'm looking at are complete bullshit. But I'll just say, I'm sure a lot of people in chat who have looked into this story have seen many claims being made that there were other agents present at the event. There were other men dressed in cargo pants, a lot of Fed boy type looking figures, looked like contractors. I do have a couple of things that I think are suspect that I can show you here that kind of, I think, lend some credence. On this show, I'm sure this will not be shocking to either of you. So MENA, the Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, trained for a potential bombing at the Boston Marathon 1 year prior to the April 15th attacks that killed 3 and injured hundreds more. They undergone drills at least twice before, with the most recent discussion happening during a training session in 2012. It included a mock scenario in which a bomb occurred at the finish line and beneath a spectator grandstand. So, maybe this is just something that you have to do at public events. Another one here. Police response training planned, but bombs hit first. This is June 2013. The scenario had been carefully planned. A terrorist group prepares to hurt vast numbers of people around Boston. They would leave backpacks filled with explosives at Faneuil Hall, the Seaport District, and in other towns, spreading waves of panic and fear. Detectives would have to catch the culprits. Months of painstaking planning had gone into the exercise dubbed Operation Urban Shield, meant to train dozens of detectives in the greater Boston area to work together to thwart the terrorist threat. So they've got this, right? But 2 months before the training exercise was to take place, the city was hit with a real terrorist attack, executed in a frighteningly similar fashion. The real thing happened before we were able to execute, said a law enforcement official with direct knowledge of the planned exercise. We've already been tested.
Yeah, that's a common theme. That's definitely a thin slicer there.
Well, let me show you.
Yeah.
I got another juicy thing. I'm just looking at a few things. Did you know that 2 months after the Boston Marathon bombing, there was a guy they found making pressure cooker bombs? Like, he had pressure cooker bombs in his basement. His name is Daniel Morley. A year prior, he was at Occupy Wall Street March of 2012, and he's like getting into fights with cops. And then, they found in his house, like, pressure bombs. Look at this, pressure cooker bombs.
Mm-hmm.
And he was never charged and ended up just like getting.
I wonder where he is today.
Away. Yeah.
Pretty interesting. Couple headlines. I've still got my biggest bombshell that I've been holding.
Waiting for it.
Yeah.
But even
No
before
pun
that,
intended.
I'm just seeing if this is all suspect enough yet. So the drills are one thing. These are the suspects' parents, so obviously you would take this with whatever grain of salt you would. Boston suspect's father calls fugitive son a true angel, says the brothers were set up. This is what they were saying at the time. Boston bombing suspect was under FBI surveillance, says the mother. They told me my son was an extremist. They didn't believe this.
Well, I think that was something I read too, is like, if they were under surveillance by the FBI, how did they not know that they were doing this?
Well, again, another common theme. The FBI's always got their dirty little fingers in that pie before it happens.
Yep. Do you guys want to grab anything else, or otherwise I can go to my
let's go to the big one.
My most Jimmy rustling.
Yeah, let's do it.
Deployment.
We've been edging long enough.
Have you guys heard of Ibrahim Todashev?
I have. Yes.
You have?
I have, yeah.
Okay. So I'll just read. Wikipedia actually shockingly does a good job of explaining what went down here. This is when I blackpilled completely out of the info war. It was via my dig on Ibrahim Todashev. I said fuck off with all politics forever.
Okay, for real, zoom in a couple levels, because people in the chat do like to follow on, and so do I.
Ibrahim Todashev, a Chechen-born former MMA fighter, amateur boxer, and friend of Boston Marathon bomber Tamerlan Tsarnaev. He was shot dead at his apartment in Orlando, Florida, by FBI agent Aaron McFarlane on May 22nd, 2013, after being interviewed for 8 hours. He had allegedly attacked the agent with a pipe or a stick. Who could tell, right? Very different things. While writing a statement about the April 15th, 2013 Boston Marathon bombings and a triple homicide that took place in Waltham, Mass. On September 11, 2011. The investigators involved in the incident said that Todashev had implicated both himself and Tsarnaev in the Waltham murders before he was killed. The FBI blocked the release of the autopsy report for approximately 9 months, released inconsistent information about his death, and did not give the family access to some of the evidence, finally releasing Todashev's clothing and some other evidence 9 years later.
9 years?
Yes. The family and civil rights groups alleged there were civil rights violations and excessive use of force involved in his death. On March 25th, 2014, the autopsy report was released, and the Florida state attorney and the U.S. DOJ announced they had concluded the agent had fired in self-defense and would not face criminal charges. According to the autopsy report, Todashev was shot 7 times, and there was no evidence of the shots having been fired from close range.
Yeah, they basically executed him after forcing him to say on record that he and Tamerlan, that was the older one, that they were involved in these other crimes because it obviously impeached the character of Tamerlan quite a bit more and made it look as if, it was more plausible that he would have committed this bombing.
Yep, and other than, this is a clean headline that says the same thing. Florida man shot by FBI was about to sign Boston murder confession, according to officials. So this was the thing, this is the coup de grace. You're telling me all the inconsistencies with the Tsarnaev brothers add up, right? People are digging into it. Couple months later, their friend, a fellow Chechen in Florida, is killed after an 8-hour interview and shot 7 times while he's in the process of signing a murder confession in Waltham. So what happened here is you had some Chechens in the Boston area, MMA fighters. It was easy to brand MMA fighters as violent extremists, of course, at this time. I guess somewhat luckily I was not in this circle, even though I was literally training with Russians at this time in the Boston area, but never came across these guys, didn't train at this gym. They absolutely murdered this guy because you are not going to get a Chechen to sign a confession. It's not going to happen. And that's a lot of the stuff I look at with the story around Tamerlan's death. These are not guys who quit. These are not guys who give up. It's somewhat notorious in the fight scene. So to me, it makes sense that the FBI was never really able to get the story they really wanted out of these guys because they were Chechens and they were a huge fucking pain in the ass when it came to a clean, tidy little story.
Well, and the Chechens were like an easy patsy too, because you had like the Chechen separatists that were,
Ramzan Kadyrov.
Yeah, they've been going on and on with Russia for quite some time, so they could just point to them. Oh, look, these are already extremists.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's a couple things here. I'm reading the Wikipedia page further. His girlfriend. Oops, that's not it. His girlfriend got in trouble and had to leave after his death. Like they forced her to leave the country, and then one of his best friends and housemate was briefly charged in an unrelated case and was ordered to leave the country. So both like the 2 closest people to him were forced to leave. And then when you look at the investigation stuff, apparently the FBI said that they thought he was grabbing a knife.
Yep.
Oh, hold on. Now I've lost it.
What I saw originally was that supposedly that he was trying to grab one of their weapons, but I don't know if that's
the story was evolving, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, damn it, now I lost it.
So the only witnesses to the shooting were forced to leave the country and not talk to anyone.
Yeah, and I remember this at the time. I was on the Chans a lot at this time. And the Todashev story, I would say that when the bombing happened, the Chans were kind of split. You had like half the people saying the Tsarnaevs did it, open and shut case. You had the other half being like, this doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of inconsistencies. When the Todashev murder happened, everybody knew
Yeah.
this was one of the most blatant cover-ups that we've ever seen. I
Super
really think.
obvious. Yeah.
Yeah.
I found it here. Officials initially claimed that Todashev picked up a knife or attempted to grab a samurai sword from the wall, but later said that it was unclear whether this was the case. One source said it was a knife or a pipe or something. A number of later reports said that he was unarmed. Some earlier accounts implied that the FBI agent was alone with Todashev at the time of the shooting. Following Todashev's death, his father showed photographs to reporters in Moscow that he had said demonstrated his son had been shot at point-blank range in the head. According to the account of an unnamed law enforcement official, Todashev knocked the interrogating agent to the ground with a table, then lunged at him with a metal pole or possibly a broomstick. In this account, there was one detective in the room who did not fire besides the FBI agent. The agent sustained minor injuries requiring stitches. An account given by former FBI Assistant Director for Public Information John Miller said that a trooper noticed that Todashev was getting more and more agitated. Rather than alert the agent and tip off Todashev that they sensed something was about to happen, the trooper texted the agent and wrote, "Be careful, I think this guy is becoming more agitated." As the agent looked down at the text, that's when the table went over. Todashev came over the table and picked up apparently a metal broom handle or something like that and charged the agent. The agent was knocked back, came up with his gun, fired 2 or 3 times. Todashev came back at him and he fired more times.
So, you know what's funny about that last exchange, John, is I can believe that those events happened as transcribed, but why did they happen?
Yeah, after 8 hours.
If you are Todashev and you're sitting there, what was that conversation actually like? It was, listen, motherfucker, you're going to prison for the rest of your life. You are going to tell us that you killed, that remember, the confession they were trying to make him sign was that he killed 3 people in Waltham, Massachusetts in 2011, which he didn't, obviously. So they're saying like you're either not leaving this room or you're signing that you killed these people. So I can absolutely believe that these agents could pass a polygraph test and say, I texted my fellow agent and said that Todashev was becoming agitated because he knew that he was either going to be put in prison for life or executed. And fair play to him. Honestly, my gut, I'll just say it. I think these dudes are heroes. I think Todashev tried to kill a couple of feds. And I don't know. It looks to me like he went out on his shield and these guys interrogated him for 8 hours and he went out the Chechen way instead of becoming just another patsy that's marched through the U.S. court system. And the fact that everything you're reading here is from like the official public narrative, and this is how catastrophic. This isn't conspiracy.com, right? This isn't Badlands Media. This isn't 4chan. This is Wikipedia is telling you there is no clear-cut story of what the fuck happened with Todashev to this day.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that the autopsy does not show any point-blank shots entering him, and the official story is that he was on top of them when he shot him, I mean, that would certainly be a point-blank range. So I think it's highly likely that after 8 hours of, essentially being browbeaten, he basically tells them there's no way I'm going to sign this. And the FBI agent is like, fuck it, I'm done. Boom, boom, boom. 7 shots. It's over. This is what we're telling everybody.
Yep. And, mean, to me, the Todashev, again, the Tsarnaev thing, I think that you can kind of steel man either side of the Tsarnaev story. It is very difficult to steel man the Todashev story, I think.
Gunshot wound to the head, like on the side of the head, right? That's the parietal, isn't that?
Mm-hmm. Which sounds like the other agent got involved.
Yeah, gunshot wound to the torso. It says indeterminate range, but the media, everything they were saying is from a distance, not close range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the autopsy seemed to imply that this was an altercation. Because again, one or both of the agents required medical attention after this event. Which, hey, hats off to Todashev. Unarmed, dealing with 2 armed FBI agents. At least sent 1 or 2 of them to the hospital. So yeah, this whole thing, I mean, I don't know. It's really interesting. Zach, before the show, had kind of pointed out like, hey, the 3 guys who were not commuted by Biden seemed to be guys that were involved in quote unquote terror strikes, terror attacks. Now, does it mean they're innocent? I don't know. Usually, in my mind, when we see like a terror strike or a shooting or something, I think MK Ultra type stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The Tsarnaevs are an example where I think that they didn't know what they were doing, and that they were set up.
It's also interesting that like where he got shot. 1 top of the head, 1 like through the brain, 3 in the back, and then like 2 in the front.
Oh wow! So they started shooting him. He got up to run away
To attack the yeah.
Oh, I mean, it depends on where the agents and the MSP officers are located around him, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
I remember
this.
the reason I really blackpilled, it was the Todashev story. Like this, it's funny actually now in hindsight, looking at like the month this came out, June or May 2013, like that is when I blackpilled fully. I think just for me, like I was a fighter at the time. Maybe that was part of what factored into it. It was just, it hit me in such a way that made me feel like if all of your conspiracies were true, you're fucked. It doesn't matter. They're going to, like, the Todashev killing to me was so in your face an execution that of like a professional fighter, and it was so obvious. And they just were like, I don't know, it was a broom, it was a pipe, it was the candlestick in the foyer. Who gives a fuck? We're the FBI. This was some Chechen. Fuck you. Like, case closed. That was pretty much the demeanor of the FBI during the Obama administration.
Yes.
And after I got fully blackpilled on that, I just went, okay, well, I know the Republicans are evil. And now apparently the Obama FBI are committing executions to cover up false flags on my city. So I'm just gonna like back out.
I will say they pointed out that his anus was unremarkable. If that means anything to you.
Unremarkable.
I was definitely already blackpilled at this point, and this did nothing to take me out of it. I mean, it was just like, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's insane, man. Never heard of that guy, but clearly something fishy going on.
Yeah,
I don't know. The whole thing is crazy. The FBI report from 2011, like where they sat down with him because he allegedly met with other people claiming to be FBI agents. That's just such a weird story.
Right.
Like, so did he call and report that somebody like was pretending to be FBI? Like, why did that?
That was the impression that I got from that conversation.
That Tsarnaev had claimed that these people were pretending to be FBI. That's what Tsarnaev claimed.
Yeah, like, well, like the FBI, these alleged FBI agents showed up. They said they wanted to talk to him. Then they never came back. And then he was like, why? So he reached out to the FBI. They have this interview. And while they have him there, they ask him a bunch of questions about his life and his activities. And, you know, they try to get a sense of who he is. And that was definitely the impression that I got. He reached out to them because the FBI had allegedly previously reached out to him, and they were like, we don't know anything about that. So why don't you tell us a little bit more?
Unfortunately, case closed, according to Gixxer Trickster. They're guilty AF, especially the older brother. The younger one needs to hang in front of the world, and they don't GAF if they were MK Ultra'd or not.
I don't necessarily think that they were MK Ultra'd.
I don't think so.
I think it's highly likely that they were set up and put into this position. I mean, the 3 that Biden did not commute were the 3 that in some way were on the FBI's radar prior to them committing their crimes. Everybody else was like a psychopath or a sociopath or a child murderer or a rapist or just a spree killer or a serial killer. Like, these 3 guys were involved in mass casualty incidents that are rather recent and all from like the Obama, Trump, Biden eras, when we have a very clear-cut picture of the FBI being totally dirty and very, very involved in committing acts like this or taking part in the commission of these acts to somehow influence society, take away our rights, push us closer to a scenario where they do have total control.
I mean, they basically tried to do this with Trump, just not like with a bombing, but it was with collusion with Russia. Like,
right,
you fabricate the whole story and do the investigation, and you're the ones that control the flow of information. Luckily, he got out of it, and the truth came out. But
and there were incidents like Parkland that happened while Trump was president. I mean, you know, again, another previously known to the FBI.
Yeah.
Man,
it was like every 3 months. Yeah, I mean, this one just there's been bigger conspiracies. I mean, 9/11 was what kind of woke me up originally, even though I didn't, finish waking up for a long time after that. But this one hit me. I'm sure a lot of it was because it was Boston, but it was also just like it disturbed me because I could. I was like, man, I was one gym away from like being in these guys' text groups. Like I was literally training in North Boston at the time, and they were in West Boston at Y Crew. And I wasn't in Y Crew, but I knew the guys at Y Crew. And it was really weird because I was training with Russians in North Boston. Now, these were Chechens. They're a little different. But that's actually signal that I don't know if I've brought up on the Power Hour, but some of the MMA stuff, one of the early reasons pre like modern info war that I started thinking differently about Vladimir Putin, according to the started defecting from the Obama era propaganda, was because he got the loyalty of Chechens and Dagestanis. And Chechens and Dagestanis are Muslims. They're like ethnic, they're basically a mix between ethnic Russians and Caucasus peoples like Middle Easterners, Balkans, that area. And they're Muslims, they're devout Muslims. But they were hardcore hardliners for Vladimir Putin. But in the 90s, they were in a war with Russia. So you guys remember a couple of years ago, the maybe real, maybe fake Wagner group coup where they were marching toward Moscow? Remember who intercepted them?
Stop right away.
It was Chechens. Yeah.
The Chechens.
Yeah.
Right? So the Chechens and the Dagestanis are the loyalists for Vladimir Putin. My opinion is that it's because these Islamic regions of what is now the Russian Federation, they were the ones who were being affected by CIA and Mossad funded ISIS and Al-Qaeda ops throughout the 80s and 90s. And Vladimir Putin came in and kicked ISIS and Al-Qaeda out and liberated the Chechens and the Dagestanis. So in the Obama era, Obama tries to start painting Chechens and Dagestanis as terrorists. So I don't know. I was just like, okay, Putin just got them in the fold in the Russian Federation. And now here we have Obama being like, our new threat is Russian Islamic terrorism.
Interesting.
There was that I think it was in Bush's presidency, there was like a Chechen separatists that like shot up a Russian school. There was that Chechen separatists at, I think it was a Russian theater, and the Russian government had to pump in fentanyl gas into the theater to incapacitate everyone. That one really fucked me up because like they're carrying people out, like the innocent people, and they're just like they're totally dead and they weren't clear about what they pumped in. They said they introduced an anesthetic gas that they didn't want to tell anybody what it was.
I think this is the school shooting you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. 2004. Yep.
Well, and just think of that. Like I haven't dug deeply on that topic, but just think of the timeline. So 2004, John pulls up that link there. We're told that, well, we know that there was literally a Chechen-Russian war going on.
Mm-hmm.
Just a few years later, the Chechens are not only not at war with Vladimir Putin, they are his most loyal soldiers.
Right. I'm not
How does
convinced.
that happen?
I'm not convinced that Chechen war was like an organic thing.
No.
Like
it
very easily could have been like CIA, intel, Islamists that were set up and armed within Chechnya. And it was meant to look as if, the Chechen people are trying to set themselves free from the scourge of Russian oppression, when in actuality, it's just another NATO, stay behind type thing,
Well, what's interesting to that point is that speaking of Khabib Nurmagomedov, he gave interviews, 10 plus years ago when he was coming up in the U.S. scene, where he was talking about Dagestan, and they used to call it in Chechnya and Dagestan going into the woods. So there was sort of a saying in those cultures where if you went into the woods in the 90s or early 2000s, you were either going to be killed or join with the movement. And that was a reference to the Islamic outfits that were in the region. So like Khabib always talks about that he was a family man. His father raised him in wrestling, kept him close to the farm, like all that kind of stuff. Because I do believe these militant groups were plucking Chechen and Dagestani children and indoctrinating them into Islamic extremism.
Didn't we just have a terrorist theater attack in Moscow?
Yeah.
Yes, there was. Yes, these were Ukrainians, though.
Yeah. But probably the same.
Yes, exactly. The same totally the same network.
Same CIA script, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Crazy. Well, guys, should we any closing thoughts? Or others you can go through boosts and rants?
Let's do that. Yeah, Muffin just appeared. I think that Lisa may have fallen asleep.
Yeah.
All right, we do have a bad.
For the record, I think those kids are bad kids. I think Russians are terrible. Chechens are the worst form of Russians. Go Boston PD. Boston strong. World Series was real.
And you just moved to an undisclosed location in Wyoming, didn't you? How'd that move go?
Beaming via Starlink from Dagestan.
Great. 1027 JS with the Badlands boost says, for $100, Merry Christmas, John and Zach.
Merry Christmas.
And fuck you, Burning Bright, apparently.
he wasn't here yet, so.
Just kidding. Okay, and a couple rants here. We got a good amount of rants tonight. Fred Awakening. I see you, man. Merry Christmas, John and Zach, and I guess the little dingleberry at the bottom of the screen, too. There's your love, Burning Bright.
Oh, good to see you, Fredo.
He sent a Christmas gift. I was going to go get it today, and there's a huge line at the post office, but I went to my security deposit box or whatever, and there's like a note in there. It's like too big. You have to go to the counter to pick it up. It's like, okay, I'm going to have to come back. I'm not going to wait in line. So I had my kids with me. It would not have ended well, but thank you. I'm going to go get that later. Rambo and Friend says it's the after explosion scene that is telling.
Yes. Yeah.
Those pictures. Thank you for the rant, Rambo. Blow Gabriel Blow says, to commemorate my 69th trip around the sun as of tomorrow, here's my contribution. Happy birthday, first of all. Bernie Bright BB liked my dad, a history teacher, used to say, God created whiskey to keep the Irish from taking over the world.
Yes.
The only people impervious to psychoanalysis, according to Freud himself.
Sean Joe, good show tonight, and Merry Christmas, fellers.
Merry Christmas.
Melindy, Texas Rangers winning their first appearance in the World Series as only team to not cave to pride crap.
Fake.
I mean, I can understand considering the pride crap to be like some form of natural disaster.
Are you not pro LGBTQ plus ZIA?
Micro Tool Maker, $117 says, I like this trio for Baseless. Yeah, he's been doing it for like longer than a week. This has been great. Thank you for your support, man. And
appreciate it.
I like this trio for Baseless Conspiracies. Great show, guys. Merry Christmas. Where we go one, we go all. Fred Awakening, didn't the Minnesota Muff Divers win the WNBA championship after the summer of 2020? I do believe that is their official name. Rebel Nader says, John, I don't know what people are saying, but I think they just need to grow a sense of humor. Merry Christmas, guys.
Agreed.
I don't know what they're saying either.
I don't really either, but let's just assume it's bad.
I did see today somebody created a Twitter account that's like just to spite me. Like it's I can't remember. It's I don't know. It was making fun of my blazers that I wear, and it was created today. It's like all day long, just bullshit posts like bashing me. I think it's hilarious. You know, you've made it when somebody creates like a sock account just to dedicate their life to bashing you.
I used to have this.
You've got a few of those.
I used to have this guy that he must have followed me from Twitch, but he would constantly, every day, just be like, tearing apart everything that I said. He was like screaming into the void. And then, like, on my sobriety anniversary, he was like, "Congratulations, dude." That was like the only nice thing he ever said. I was like, "Wow, thank you."
That's awesome.
It was so funny. I haven't seen him in forever, so I don't know if he's still around.
Call sign Cujo says, "Thank you guys. Merry Christmas to all. God bless. Appreciate our BLs.
Badlanders."
Cam Cooksey. I think BB did it, but I'm speculating. Great show, gents. Merry Christmas. Shout out to Afraid Awakening in the chat. Remember, BB Hap came before Mohap.
Okay.
BB.
Well, I suppose in the day you were born, we knew exactly what you had. So,
Trevor Yonda for the Yacht Fund. Merry Christmas. Thank you.
Oh,
We're
look
up
at
to
that. What
about the
$13.
yacht?
Good
Where we
stuff,
at with that?
man.
It's not
Maybe
the
one of
Badlands
these
yacht.
days.
It's the
I
Zach
wonder.
yacht.
I wonder if we can figure out what kind of boat it was. If it was a yacht that the Sarnev brother hid away in.
I wonder if we can buy that
from
boat.
aerial views.
Yeah, I mean, it might be like cheaper
Little
than
inboard.
others, just because of the implications of it.
Yeah, and I wonder if we
You
can
know
do
what,
some
though?
forensics on it.
I wanted to say earlier, it will be really interesting to see, like, now that some of these names have resurfaced, what happens under the Trump administration with them. Because, hey, I mean, if he stays life in prison, I don't know, maybe that casts a lot of doubt onto this stuff, but it'll be interesting to see what happens with these.
I mean, you look at, like, say, the execution of somebody like Timothy McVeigh, how quickly that happened, and I'm actually kind of surprised that he's still breathing at all.
Yeah.
That kind of shocks me, actually. I would have assumed he was dead. I didn't know that.
Trevor Yonda.
Wait, no. I mean, to be clear, Timothy McVeigh is dead. I'm talking about the Sarnev brother, that he hasn't been executed.
Yeah.
Gamble 808. Shout out to who suggested Boston bombing. I know it wasn't John because he was 12 or something. It was actually Burning Bright, who was 13. So fuck you, Gamble.
Was I 13?
I don't know, but
no, he was with a
No,
woman.
I was like, wait a second. that freaked me out for a second. I was like, what happened?
Blue 7i. Does the fact that Putin warned Obama about the Sarnev brothers factor into this?
This was all told to you by Obama. Obama had a phone call with Vladimir Putin during this time period, and Obama told us that Vladimir Putin wished the U.S. well and, wished them, was sorry about what had happened or whatever in Boston. But it was very vague. It was all very vague. I was looking for more details of that conversation, but there wasn't a whole lot available.
But the claim is Putin warned Obama about the Sarnev brothers?
They're claiming. I didn't see that. I saw that they had a phone call where Putin expressed his condolences for the incident.
Interesting. I'd be curious because it sounds like Obama warning Trump about Mike Flynn. Like, I don't know.
Can't trust
the whole thing's
Obama
weird.
warnings. I just got Muffin itching her back on the bottom of my chair.
Oh no.
Yeah, I know. I just put a stop to it real quick.
Yeah, I'll cruise through these so you can get the muffin here. Cam Cooksey, call sign Cujo. I would never tell BB that you like his insight. Oh, I think there's some misspellings going on in the chat or something. Cam Cooksey.
Common Core fails another one.
Cam Cooksey says to call sign Cujo again. Oops, was that a rant? Call sign Cujo. Yep, is okay. He likes a little bro. Good insight. Call sign Cujo. Insight totally not intentional. LOL. Cam Cooksey, this is my application to join Bright Army and blindly follow Burning Bright into the depths of Mordor. Tell us where to go, Mr. Tiger Light.
What
is going on?
Simply walk.
Cam Cooksey, Barbara Bush. Cam Cooksey, Barbara Bush was a man, is what I meant. God is with us. Great show, John, Zach, and BB. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Crane 59, Zach's Yacht Fund. May you have it for your 50th wedding anniversary. Congrats, by the way.
Thank
$5.
you.
We're up to $18 now. And then Petty 429 says Red Pill Yacht Club $1. And we are at
19
bucks. 19
Okay.
bucks.
We'll just call it 20.
Now,
Okay.
Zach, are
Right.
the wooden panels behind you freestanding, or are those attached to the wall?
I know Zach is trying to take his dog that just had surgery like out to the bathroom.
I just
and you're
need to know.
stalling.
I'm going to think about it.
I fully installed those wooden panels on my wall. I used construction adhesive as well as a Brad gun.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Like Brad Getz gun?
No, it's a type of nail. It's very thin, very, light duty. Basically, you just want to hold it in place. The construction adhesive, is what really is holding it onto the wall.
Yeah, you just said duty. But okay, we'll end with that.
Fungi sent another rant over. Google search FBI agent Aaron McFarlane, who shot Todashev. Interesting.
I will do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for the rants, everybody. Hit that thumbs up. There will be a power hour on Wednesday night. So me and Brady Brett will see you there.
There will not be an altered state.
Wow. So you guys know who has real
Oh, guys, tomorrow night, story hour, Home Alone. It's going to be a good episode. Watch it. It's all
Gordon was drinking during it, so.
Yes, Gordon will be there. I don't think it was Liberty Den Gordon, but it was still good.
Pre-Liberty Den Gordon. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll see you all next time.
Peace. Merry Christmas.